dear, dear good friend, David, Rachel David. Rachel David yearned to inspire others. He lovingly prepared the talk with his great, great desire to share his experience with all of us. He yearned to be able to do it this past Thursday night, but he wasn't able to. And I want to share with you from his own words, his opening remarks, and these are his words. Becoming a more spiritual person. Spirituality is a challenging pursuit, particularly in these times. When we dive into our Creator, we often feel rushed, distracted, and we allow mundane thoughts to overtake the words and meanings of our well-intended feelings. I was at the top of my game, and so I thought. Physically, professionally, relationships beginning to reap the rewards of modest success. On July 4th, 2008, the whole world changed. I'd like to begin by saying that I have no special claim to be a tzaddik or a kaddish. But in my nearly 60 years, life experience has closed some doors to me, where it has opened others. And rather than stand in front of the closed doors and be frustrated, I pursued the entryways to new and elevated places. There had always been a flicker of spirituality in me, but I preferred to keep it under my hat, so to speak. But events in my life in the last few years have turned the flicker into a full flame. And my objective here is to share the insights and lessons I have learned on a painful yet meaningful journey. I hope you will benefit from this as much as I have without having to pay the full price. Those are the beginning of the words which he wanted to share with us. And the only thing I would disagree with is what he said, that I'm no special claim to be a tzaddik or a kaddish. I would disagree with that. I'd like to call the close friend of David and the family, Larry Russak, to say a few words.
A few weeks ago, when a friend of mine from Alaska, where David Gresham had just had surgery, David was having lunch that day with David Oppenheimer. They would have a lunch and learn once a week. And David Oppenheimer brought David over to my house. David struggled with the back stairs. He insisted he's got to come in and see Dave, make a call on him. He went into my family room and sat down with Dave Gresham, and he said the following three things. And he said, and your husband said, I want to make sure my wife hears this. And at that time, he kept it quiet. He just let a few of us hear it. He said, my three greatest claims to fame in my life. Number one, are loving and living with Ruth Hyman. Number two, is fathering three magnificent girls. And number three, living a Torah life. That should say it all. Our Midrash tells us that the neshama of man, neshama is feminine. And what could you have more around you than a Ruth, Abigail, Penina, Esther, Hina, Aviva, Tehila, Rachel? A world of strength, compassion, warmth, and love. Dave and I, probably 2 years ago, were sitting in his living room. Kent had made his daily visit and had just left, and David was waxing philosophical, and he was talking about what the future held. And we were actually talking about the fact that he had some concerns about the fact that he had nobody to say Kaddish for him in the future. And that brought something to his mind that came to fruition not much long after. When I was saying Kaddish for my father, one Friday afternoon when David and I were learning together, he said, I need a favor. And most people here don't know this because they haven't gone to the second minyan on a regular basis in the shul, which I was doing when I was saying Kaddish for my father. David said, I want you to do the following for me. I need a favor. He said, starting on Sunday morning through Friday morning every week, can you have somebody call me at the end of davening, I know it's not necessarily the right thing halachically to do, but I need somebody to call me, so I have the opportunity, when they say Kaddish at the end of davening, to respond, Amen Yehei Shmei Rabbo, which is an incredible, incredible display of faith for somebody every single morning, wanting, in the state of illness he was in, to want the phone to ring at 8:20 every morning, and every single Sunday through Friday, as Ruth knows well, the phone would ring, either with Hanan Simon on the end of the phone, because I was leading the davening, or Moshe Spinell, or Harry Rubin. Somebody would call from the minyan, the phone would ring, they would say nothing, they would put the phone by David, we'd say Aleinu, we'd say Kaddish, and David would respond. Some days you wouldn't hear anything on the end of the line, some days very loudly you could hear it throughout the basement. That's the kind of person David is. His spirituality lives amongst us, and what he displayed with that gesture of the daily dedication to do that is beyond what most of us can even relate to. David and Ruth, throughout these last couple of difficult years, have grown stronger and wiser and kinder and more compassionate and more resourceful, and have witnessed more than any of us how pain can break our bonds with the physical world and strip away many of our illusions about life. They've been a tremendous source of strength to all of us, to their family, to their community, and have been our teachers. This past Thursday night, after I brought their kids home from the airport, it was almost midnight, and Ruth went into the bedroom and said, "Do you want to go talk to Dave for a second?" And I went in there, and Ruth had told me that Dave was declining, he wasn't eating, and really was an opportunity to say goodbye. But as I had told their son-in-law in the car, I said, we weren't going to speak any words of negativity, we were only going to talk about how great things are. And I went in there and I told them about how fantastic his kids are and how wonderful everything is. And Dave was laying there, and all of a sudden he just turned over, grabbed me by the collar of my jacket, pulled me down to him, pulled himself up, and said 2 words. He said, "Thank you." And that's the last words I heard from him. And it is said that calm seas do not produce good sailors. David's personal tempest produced greatness. And now, as he is off on his way to navigate his way to God's side and to God's realm, I just want to say to David and to Ruth, thank you.